Alright boys, what's happening? Welcome back to another episode of My Team on F1 2021. Today we have the Russian Grand Prix at the Sochi Autodrom. Very fun circuit to drive, I think. Russia, it's not the most exciting of tracks in terms of track layout. It's quite an easy track. There's not many elevation changes. Well, there's only like one real elevation change, and that's towards those final chicanes towards the end of the lap, which makes the track just very easy to drive. Just continuous corners flowing together very nicely, which is why it's one of my favourite tracks to drive. I've got a lot of pace around Russia. We'll see in this video how much pace we do actually have around here. You can see on the screen now for a brief second as we go into the R&D tree. We are actually above AlphaTauri and Alpine now in the vehicle comparison chart. So we have like the 5th best car on the grid, I do believe, behind Mercedes, Red Bull, Aston Martin, McLaren and Ferrari. So that puts us P6 in terms of the best car on the grid. So we should be a lot faster than all of the cars below us, and we'll see once we do get to quali and the race how much pace we do have. You can see on the screen now we're obviously constantly upgrading the car. Every time we get some resource points in, we're making sure we've got an upgrade going, and once these upgrades come through on the screen, it will put us almost level with Scuderia Ferrari, which will be a massive like jump for the team if we can start competing with Carlos and Charles in that Ferrari car. You can see though on the screen we're going to quali now, but the race is in full wet conditions, boys, as you saw on the forecast just there. We've obviously got quali first though, and quali is in the sun, so we don't have to worry about the rain until the race. We did go, you'll see the setup now, we did go with a dry setup for the race just so we could get our best position in qualifying. Obviously, it's a hard compromise whether to use a wet setup in quali or whether to use a dry setup when you've got quali in the rain or the sun and vice versa with the race. It's difficult, but we went with our best performance in quali on the setup, and let's get into the lap. Getting out of the final corner in 3rd gear just to get the best traction heading towards turn 1. It's not really a turn, but I think it's classed as turn 1 just there. You can hug the wall a lot tighter there through that turn 1 if you want to even call it that. Heading into this turn now, braking just before the 100 metre board down to 3rd, short shift to 4th on the exit, riding a lot of that curb. The curbs around Russia are really lethal. There's a lot of orange sausage curbs on the apex of a lot of the corners, but that first one there in turn 2 you can actually take a lot of, and there's no damage or it doesn't really unsettle the car. Everywhere else though around Russia, make sure you stay off those orange curbs. You'll see there we bump it a little bit there, shaves a bit of time off our lap. Can very easily unsettle the car if you touch those curbs and ruin your lap completely. But coming through now, heading towards this left-hander, stay in 6th, drop it to 5th as we come around there, back up into 6th on the exit. Heading towards a little right-hander now, down to 4th gear, I do believe, for this one, early on the throttle, as we head towards quite a long straight. It's a bit curved, but it's still a straight. Hug the wall as tight as you can here. Take the shortest run down, heading into this right-hander. We do have right here down into 2nd gear for this. We bump the curb a little there again, shaves a bit of time off us, and then you're really relying on mechanical grip around this section of the circuit. Here the back end's going to slide away from you because you're braking heavily and it's going uphill, so be careful for oversteer coming through that chicane there. Like I say, you're really relying on the mechanical grip of the car, which is quite difficult to do when our car is not very developed in terms of the suspension and stuff like that. And we have a terrible last corner there, but we set a 1:30.8 fastest lap of the qualifying session, faster than both McLarens and the Red Bull of Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas. So a very quick lap from us there, and it was still very shaky. There's definitely a lot of time to make up as we are 1/10 up already in our 2nd flying lap here. Going around this corner, hugging the wall as tight as possible. Like I say, take the shortest run you can. On the F1 game, the shortest run possible is always the best option, even if it's not really on the racing line. We lose a bit of time coming through there as we head through 3rd gear, shifting to 4th. A little snap of oversteer, kind of the back end sort of going out. I think our tyres are quite hot on this run here. We have another little wobble there as we head into this left-hander, drop it to 5th. We bounce the curb a little, which unsettles the car, and we spin. Can we catch it? We do catch it, boys, very luckily. And we see Giovinazzi there, so we get out his way real quick. Yeah, we spin there, boys. Not very good. I did feel the back end going out in the last 2 corners. We probably should have took it a bit easier, but we did push, bounced off the curb. We already had tyre temps, I think, going through the roof, so we had no grip really. We were sliding about. Just pushed it a little too hard there. Managed to keep it out of the wall completely. I thought the wheel was just going to crunch underneath us. we took a little bit of front wing damage. But look at that, boys. Callum Ilott, our new teammate, makes it through to Q2 in his second race with the team. Massive showing from Callum Ilott there. Obviously, nearly got in the points last week in his first race. And now he's in P15, making it through to Q2. So that's a great show. And Dan Tickton, I think he made Q2 like once in his whole career with the team. But let's get into Q2. Our flying lap now on Q2. Hugging the wall as tight as possible there through turn 1. Heading down into turn 2, staying as closest to the wall as possible. Wide entry down to third gear, short shift to fourth. Lovely exit there as we head into the sweeping left-hander, hugging the wall again, taking a lot of the curb and then some. Just make sure you don't put it in the wall, of course. Heading down now, another wide entry to this corner, fourth gear, early on the throttle to get the car rotated, staying as tight as possible. We nearly hit the wall there, but that's the line that you've got to take to maximise your lap time through Russia. A bit wide on the exit there of that corner. Heading down in 7th gear now, down into 4th for this right-hander, avoiding the curb. We knock it a slight bit, might have thrown us off a little, down to 5th for this left. We managed to avoid the curb there. It doesn't really unsettle the car this time, like last time when we nearly dropped it into the wall. Down to 3rd gear, back into 4th, short shift on the exit. Straight line, hug the wall on the straight. We are a bit far out there, but shortest line possible. You can shave off a few thousands, and in these F1 cars every thousand of a second counts, especially in qualifying. We go a bit deep there on the entry to that. Mechanical grip of the car, like I say, through these corners is vital, so it's really just like luck in a sense, just the balance of the car, how you've got it set up heading into the chicanes. Whether you get good grip on the exit or not, there's nothing really you can do apart from just hope that you get the grip coming out of the corner, you know. This final corner here, it's all about sacrificing your exit and just maximising your entry, because obviously the finish line for Russia is right at the end of that corner. So yeah, that is our lap for Q2. And Lewis Hamilton is out in Q2, boys. He tries to set a lap on the medium tyres and goes out in Q2 in P11. Callum Ilott unfortunately going out in the P15 as well. Couldn't improve from that P15 he got in Q1. But Lewis Hamilton, that is absolutely massive. Hamilton will start P11 on the grid, minus any grid penalties, and we're going to be P4 in Q2. Or P5, sorry, I think it was. So now Q3. And I was pissing about with the tyres, boys, I can't lie. Like I wanted to try and save set the tyres and stuff for Q2, and just I was thinking about race strategy, trying to save set the tyres, completely forgetting that the race was in the full wet conditions anyway. So our tyres in quali didn't matter, because obviously you can't use slick tyres in the rain. As we come through turn 1 there, we've already set a banker lap in Q3 already. We're 1/10 up on this lap here. 7 minutes left in this session. We're in P6 currently with our current lap. A bit wide on the exit there, losing 1/10 now. We're down in the delta, but we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep pushing this lap. We are down in the delta, red in sector 1. I probably should have just gave up this lap, got new tyres and gone again. We had time to go again, but now we're 2.5 tenths down. So I don't know why. I genuinely don't know why I kept pushing. I don't know what feeling I had. We're nearly 4 tenths down, 3.5 tenths there. But I just kept pushing and thought I can make up 3 tenths somewhere. It's a significant amount to try and make up. 3 tenths of a lap is, it's not an easy feat really. And we're coming towards the end of sector 2 now. So if we don't see an improvement heading into this chicane here, well, sort of chicane as we come underneath the bridge. And like I say about mechanical grip, we just had a lot of grip coming through there very nicely, and you see the delta fly up coming through this section now. We just had so much grip, boys, coming through. Bumped the curb a little, which knocks us off a little bit, but we got a good exit compared to our last lap through that little sector there. And it's make or break really, your grip through that sector of the lap. And we jump the corner there because, like I say, sacrifice your exit of the corner to try and get just the best entry possible, but we get quite a bad entry there really into the lap. But that puts us in P5. So we set a 131.8, which is actually slower than our Q1 and Q2 times, which isn't ideal, of course. So there's definitely time to make up in this lap. You can see we're pushing again one last time in Q3. There's definitely time to make up because we've gone faster before in the previous qualifying sessions, and already we're going to be nearly 1/10 up on our final push lap of the qualifying session, trying to catch Charles Leclerc, who obviously, like I mentioned before, we are very close to the Ferraris on vehicle comparison and vehicle performance. We're 3/10 up on the lap already, heading towards the end of sector 1, and we've gone purple in sector 1, boys. We are absolutely flying. This could be a massive lap. This could be huge. Purple in sector 1, 4th gear, lovely exit there, just keeping so much speed. Our minimum speed on this lap was so high coming through these corners. We kept the minimum speed so high. 5 tenths up now on the lap, just absolutely fantastic. bit wide there on the exit heading down the straight. But we're still 5/10 up. As you can see, it's slowly creeping down, but we maintain that 5/10 as we head towards the end of Sector 2. And I believe we go green in Sector 2 there. There's qualifying complete as we head towards the mechanical grip sector, as we are calling it now. And we come through there. We're still nearly 5/10 up. We lose a bit of time coming through there, but we bump the curb there, boys, and it completely throws us off into the right-hander. Big snap of oversteer there, and we're going to completely lose that 5/10 lead that we did have. It's down to 1.5 tenths now as we head towards the final corner. I try and jump it again, and we nearly absolutely take off into space there, and we end up 5/10 slower on that lap. After going purple in Sector 1, green in Sector 2, we go red in Sector 3 by 5/10, which is very unfortunate. So we start P6 for the race. Great showing from us there, and you can see the two Ferraris in front of us. The McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo, I thought he'd be way up there. Obviously Lando in P2, Ricciardo down in P9. Very similar to real life. Ricciardo just can't get a grip on that McLaren compared to Lando. But let's get into the race in the full wet conditions, boys.
Welcome one and all to today's Grand Prix here in southern Russia. A beautiful location besides the Black Sea, and a race that has historically been dominated by the Silver Arrows. Mercedes have won here 6 times since the first race in 2014. Can someone else muscle in on that record here today? Well, it's certainly not the best weather out on the Sochi street circuit today. A track that boasts 18 corners, 12 to the right and 6 to the left. And it's a track that combines both fast corners and long straights, resulting in speeds of excess of 200 miles an hour. But with these conditions, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a safety car out there today. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's have a chat about McLaren. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, the owner driver, and Vettel, Ricciardo, Hamilton, Stroll, and Antonio Giovinazzi. Ireland, Sainz, they've taken a grid penalty. Fernando Alonso and Ocon, Perez, Mazepin, Pierre Gasly, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And George Russell, Latifi, Raikkonen, Tsunoda, and Mick Schumacher. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
So, boys, as you can see, we actually gain a place there. Carlos Sainz taking a grid penalty. We're going to start P5 now. One-stop strategy, obviously, on the wet tyres. It's going to stay full wet all the way through. No chance of intermediates. We load the fuel now. We're messing about with the fuel, as you can see. I think I stick it around 27 laps on the dot. It's very easy to lift and coast around Russia if I do end up needing to save fuel towards the end of the lap. But let's get into it, boys. You can see just how wet it is. Look at all the puddles on the track. It's 5 red lights in Sochi, and it is lights out, and away we go. And we get off to a wobbly start straight away. You can see our car power sliding through the starting grid there, and Lewis Hamilton gets off to a flying start, overtaking us already through turn 1. We're going to be racing wheel to wheel with Lewis for the majority of this first lap, heading down into turn 2 now. And look at Sergio Perez on the outside there, but he's absolutely dive bombing it down from P16 on the grid, I think, up to P8 just in the matter of 2 corners. He slotted in behind Daniel Ricciardo on P9. What a move from Sergio Perez that was, as we're heading towards the left-hander now, the sweeping left, racing wheel to wheel with Lewis Hamilton. Like I say, Hamilton got off to such a good start, and we had a very shaky one, so Hamilton is beating us into this corner now, but we're going to push him wide a little bit, almost make contact there. I was a bit aggressive, I was taking that racing line, but I just didn't want to compromise my own line heading into that corner. But Lewis does yield as we go into it, but now he's obviously going to come back at us. It's Lewis Hamilton, do you know what I mean? He's not going to yield for long. He's going to hold that position behind us, but you can see just how fast Sebastian Vettel is in front of us as we're trying to battle with Lewis behind. It's not ideal. I just want to keep racing and try and catch Seb, but Lewis is obviously flying behind us. Seb has been absolutely flying in this season as well. So maybe that's a shout for a future teammate. Sebastian Vettel, one of my favourite drivers of all time. I used to watch him a lot as a kid. Like I say, he was the guy who got me into Formula 1 really as a kid. He was at Red Bull winning the championship a lot. So obviously as a kid I was just glory hunting, supporting Red Bull Racing and Sebastian Vettel there. But we are heading towards the end of lap 1. You can see just how wet it is on the screen now. The camera, you can hardly see anything with the spray coming off the back of Vettel's car there. The puddles are absolutely crazy. But Lewis Hamilton actually lost 2 places there, boys. I don't know if he made contact with us, but you can see there, massive oversteer coming through. Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo very easily just pass him there. Weird overtake from Ricciardo. He sort of just lets him pass. I don't know if Hamilton actually touched us there or what. I didn't really feel contact while I was driving myself, but Hamilton either way, losing 2 places there to Perez and Ricciardo, but he won't go for long. And we go over the sausage curb there, boys, which I stick to the rules kind of. If you go over that sausage curb, you do have to go through the little chicane, the foam chicane on the outside there, which we do. Obviously Carlos Sainz did that in real life last year and crashed into the wall, but we go straight through the foam barrier rather than going into the wall. And rather than rejoining the track, I tried to play it, you know, what's the word, like legal, because obviously in real life if you rejoin the track there, it is a penalty. I don't think on the game you get a penalty for it, but in real life there you've got to go through those foam little barriers there, as we smashed completely through them. Massive oversteer there coming through, and that's going to allow Sergio Perez to fly past us. Perez, who started about P16 on the grid, up into P6, like absolutely flying on the first 2 laps here. Sergio Perez, driver of the day already so far. I don't think anyone's going to be able to beat him unless something does happen towards the end of the race, boys. But we go wide again through this last little chicane. I find it so hard through this section, just in the sun, never mind in the full wet conditions, just misjudging our braking point and losing the back end there. Like I say, you're braking very hard going uphill, so all your like downforce and momentum and weight shifts to the front of the car, and then as you go uphill, your back end just slides out because it's just so hard coming through there. And in the wet conditions, boys, like as you've seen in the last race, if you haven't seen that, wet conditions in Monza, I just can't drive in the rain. I lose all ability. Daniel Ricciardo trying to send one on us now. Probably should have done better to break the toe there, but we go ahead and we're still staying nearly 5 tenths ahead of Ricciardo every lap. That's really where he's staying. Obviously the wet conditions play into our favour with there being no DRS, otherwise Ricciardo would have smoked us a few laps ago. But in these wet conditions it is quite hard to catch up to people and to overtake with no DRS, of course. And now we're trying to increase that gap to Ricciardo to a second if we can. But we lock up there, boys. I think we locked both rears heading into the corner. Massive snap of oversteer on the outside again. And Daniel Ricciardo is now 1/10 behind us. We nearly had a second lead on Ricciardo. But you can see now, I think we locked both rear tyres there. And we just went straight on, completely missed the apex of the corner, which allowed Ricciardo to catch up to us very easily. And obviously Hamilton right behind Ricciardo and racing wheel to wheel now with Ricciardo. He tries to go around the outside, but we're going to hold our ground, get a better exit out of the corner. Ricciardo slots back in behind, but we have Daniel Ricciardo and Lewis Hamilton right behind us, boys. Not what you want to see. A few laps later though, we do manage to increase that gap to Ricciardo to 1.4 seconds, and there is a yellow flag behind us, and it looks like it's going to be the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton that has brought out that yellow flag. As we can see, Ricciardo's still behind us, but Hamilton dropping back a little bit. Let's see what's going on with Lewis as we head down this straight here, and he just completely snaps. I don't know what went on with Lewis there. Very rare mistake from Lewis Hamilton, but his car does seem to be slowing down. It was as if something just snapped or broke in the car. You can see there his steering wheel started shaking, and you can see is out of the session, so something must have just broken his car. Very weird and awkward to see, but that does bring out the safety car on lap 13 of 27. It's a one-stop race, so we're not going to go ahead and pit, but on the safety car restart now, we don't manage to gain any places on the restarts. We have Perez in front of us, who's shown an incredible pace so far in this race, obviously coming up from the back end on the first lap, staying in P6 now. He's chasing down Seb Vettel. We're trying to chase him. Ricciardo's chasing us. Lance Stroll a lot further behind Ricciardo. Not really a threat to us right now, Lance Stroll. But as you can see on the left-hand side, boys, Callum Ilott, our teammate, is in P10, boys. He's in the points. So that would be absolutely huge from Callum to get points in his second race with the team. Would be an absolutely fantastic showing from the lad. But you can see just how wet it still is on the final lap of the race now, boys. Such a difficult race. Not much really happened. We're still trying to keep that gap to Ricciardo. Trying to catch Perez. We closed the gap to Perez to 1 second, but he just had so much more pace than us. We couldn't do anything to catch him heading towards the end of the final lap, we started picking up a lot of speed towards the end. The track dried out a little bit, not much, but we started finding a lot more grip. But as you can see, our tyres there, 63% on the front left, 57% on the front right. We were absolutely killing the tyres, trying to push as hard as possible. We go purple in sector 2 on the final lap of the race. Maybe one more lap and we might have caught Perez and overtook him, maybe even Vettel, because Vettel is quite close in front of Perez. But we had some immense pace towards the end of the race here, keeping Ricciardo at bay. Obviously Lance Stroll nearly 10 seconds behind Ricciardo as well. So as we come through now, final few corners, Valtteri Bottas winning the race, shock horror to nobody. Mercedes winning in Russia, who would have thought it? Valtteri Bottas gets the checkered flag. Obviously Lewis Hamilton retired. See just how battered the tyres are there. Our engine started getting worn as well towards the end, but we go ahead and cross the line in P7, I want to say. I've completely forgot, I've just seen it, but I've completely forgot where we do finish in this race. Sergio Perez, of course, driver of the day. We'll see just how many places he did gain once we have a look at the standings at the end of the race. So difficult to drive in the rain. You know, if we had this race in the sun, boys, who knows what might have happened. You saw the pace I had in quali. Definitely could have fought for a podium, maybe, depending on strategy and safety cars and stuff. You know, we have serious pace around Russia. It was just disappointing that we did get the race in the rain, but you've got to make do with what you get given in life. Of course, let's see the podium then. We do have Max Verstappen in P2 and Lando Norris in P3. We've got Valtteri on the podium. Ironic as well that the sponsor behind says VTB, which I thought stood for Valtteri Bottas, and I was like, why would they be sponsored by Valtteri Bottas? But Valtteri Bottas there getting the win. Max Verstappen with the fastest lap of the race by 2/10 on Bottas. Sergio Perez up from P15 into P6. Outrageous. Callum Ilott though, star of the day. P10, 1 point. It's only 1 point, but it's still a big point for us, and a big point for Callum in terms of his keeping his seat at our team. Lewis Hamilton, the only DNF there. Very weird thing that happened to him. Just very strange to see that what happened to Lewis there. But shout out to Callum Ilott, man. Like a few people said to me, it's a good pick-up getting Callum Ilott. Obviously, we got rid of that big fat-headed Frankenstein unit, Dan Ticktum. He's gone. He's in the mud. And if I ever see him again, I'm going to be throwing fists like this.
USA. Round 1. Fight.
But yeah, boys, we go ahead and pick up a reliability upgrade there. We get a few upgrades in the facilities as well. We've got 2 upgrades coming through on the chassis department. Obviously keeping up with those upgrades there. Heading through, getting our upgrades through. No failures. Singapore Grand Prix. Next episode, boys. Very entertaining episode. You do not want to miss this next one. Trust me. Trust me on that one. You don't want to miss the Singapore Grand Prix episode. Coming very soon. Get this video to 10 likes and it'll come out. You get me? We've got to take a grid penalty because our ICE is worn. So we're taking a grid penalty for Singapore. Let's see what we can do with a grid penalty. We're currently in P10 in the driver standings, P7 as a team. Can we try and catch AlphaTauri before the end of the season? We're only like 12 points away. Can we get 12 points more than AlphaTauri by the end of the season? It's going to be a difficult task, but let's find out what we can do with 5 races left, I want to say, in this season. If you are enjoying the series, like, comment, share and subscribe. You know the vibes, and I will catch you next time for a fantastic episode. Take it easy.